Welcome to Wise and Wild of America, a series meant to inspire and empower you on your self-discovery and self-authorship journey. I am Adina Dabija, and I have the pleasure to be here today with my teacher in hypnosis and my friend, Dr. Kelly Tallaksen. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Adina. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. So it's such an honor to have you here today. Please allow me to introduce you formally, and then we'll start our conversation. I've been looking forward ever since I learned about your new book, which just came out last week, 2 weeks ago. So Kelly is a board-certified hypnotist under the National Guild of Hypnotists and an NGH Hypnosis Instructor, president of the Long Island chapter of the NGH, a published author, and a speaker on human consciousness and its effects on the soul. Kelly specializes in transpersonal hypnosis, which is working beyond the physical realm to help her clients heal soul traumas that cause a disconnect to self-love. Kelly holds a doctorate degree in metaphysical hypnosis and a PhD in holistic life counseling. Kelly is also trained in holistic psychology, parts healing and integration, age regression, HeartMath, ancestral healing, and spiritual healing journeys. Kelly is the author of The Voiceless Soul and Healing Our Unhealed Parts. So welcome again. I am just curious about the title of your new book. So why this topic on self-love? What is self-love? And how does it connect to your previous work, the previous book that you wrote on the unhealed soul?
Well, self-love is actually something we actually all embody already. It's just that we have barriers to it. And that's why I titled the book To Break Those Barriers, because those barriers are from the mental mind. They're not part of our true essential self, us as a soul that came into this human body. In the human body, we developed an ego, a mental mind, which we don't have in our spirit. So in our spirit, all we know is love. That's all we know is this beautiful divine consciousness of love that we totally embody within our spirit. But then we come on this journey, and now we're experiencing emotions and thoughts and feelings that actually negate loving ourselves. Because what happens is, if we knew who we really were, there would be no question about self-love. We would just simply feel it in our bodies, because our spirit would exude all of this amazing divine consciousness, and we would live through it on the physical realm. But on the physical realm, we're having other experiences that pull us away from that honesty and integrity of who we are and put us in this place of mental conflict where we start to question our lovability. So self-love is where we come back to that authenticity, and it's not about learning how to love ourselves. It's learning how to remember who we are before all of these mental conflicts became part of our consciousness and blocked all of that self-love.
I'm wondering how, because you are saying in your book that everyone arrives to self-love on its own unique way. I'm just curious if you can give us an example. How did you arrive to, what was your journey? And maybe you can give us some example of you being in non-love.
Yeah. Well, non-love begins the moment that we feel a sense of rejection from this physical realm, specifically from the people that brought us in, mother, father, a sibling, somebody where we connect with our first tribe, okay? So our first tribe is our family tribe. It's our mother, father, and any siblings and any surrounding people. And the moment that we feel rejected or criticized, judged, neglected, or even abused, we start to sense our ability to be able to be accepted and loved in this world. We start to question it now. Like, am I enough for this family member? What's wrong with me? And the moment we question that something might be wrong with us is the first moment there's non-love, because how can we love ourselves if we think that we have these faults, or we think we have these inferiority parts of us, right? So we're forgetting who we are in that moment. And we're relying on somebody else's opinion or action or inaction to describe who we are. So that means that we have basically abandoned our true self and relied on an outside source to dictate who we are in this world. And once we do that, and it comes from a lower level of conscious, something lower than that love, then we're going to question if we are lovable. So that's our first moment of non-love. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to prove that we are lovable. And that's where we start to go into another version of ourselves.
So this was your journey. So this is what really brought you to write this book, the
Yes.
dynamic in your own family.
I had to learn how to come back to me and love myself, even though my family, and I'm going to say specifically mother and father, didn't support me in that self-love, because I didn't know as a child that they weren't even supporting themselves. Because I'm a child, they're the adults, I have to look up to them. I want their acceptance. So if I don't feel accepted by them, I'm going to do whatever I can to get their acceptance. And that's where I guess the people pleasing might set in as you get older, and you look for certain survival tactics to get yourself back to that acceptance. So then what happens is you go on a journey and you start clearing away those barriers. You start to understand that those people that made us feel bad about ourselves, not always intentionally, it's just the way the world works, it's the way consciousness is, they project out what they're feeling. We don't know this as children, but it becomes our core beliefs. So what I had to really do is start changing my core beliefs, because those core beliefs were faulty. They were not who I am.
And this is very similar to my story. And I think that that brought me exactly to study with you among all these choices of different hypnosis teachers, because I felt that disconnect from my childhood narrative as I became an adult. So the hypnosis sessions I had with you played such an important role in healing what many people call generational trauma. So I started life with this unconscious trauma of losing my mother when I was 3 to cancer. And I, everything was normal. Then I didn't realize. So I only realized this trauma when I got pregnant with my first child. That's when I started to feel the pain. And then my father decided to give me for adoption to my uncle, so I can be raised in this polarity, like a more balanced situation. So got all good intentions, but
Yeah.
I inherited this narrative of abandonment and betrayal. So I came to you, and you helped to heal that. And I want to ask you how to approach. Let's spend some time talking about generational trauma, and I want to read a small fragment from your book.
Okay.
So about this, you are saying numerous studies indicate that we navigate our lives about 5 to 10% from our conscious awareness, and about 90 to 95% from our lower levels of consciousness. The adult sometimes operates from the immature child mind because the subconscious mind reacts to life only from stored information. During our earlier years, we are mostly in a slower brainwave state, which is hypnotic and may pick up the wrong messaging and make it our truth. Primary caregivers that feel unworthy may unconsciously say things to a child that makes them feel unlovable. Primary caregivers that live with depression may neglect the child's emotional needs, causing the child to feel undeserving of those needs. So can we please develop on this topic?
Sure. So when I say about 5 to 10% come from the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the lower levels of the mind, are strictly a storage house of our memories, okay, but only the way we perceive them. Because our memories are not based in fact. They're only based in the way we perceived the way things happened. And then from there, we create what we call our belief system. 10%, 5 to 10% comes from our logical mind. So if we're only operating 10% from our logical mind and more like 90% from a storage house, based on perception, those perceptions were built into that storage house from the time we were born. So we're storing information based on the level of consciousness that you have when you're a newborn, a 1-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old. You're not basing this what's stored in your memories on that logical mind, just on the conscious and perception of the child. So for example, like your example, feeling that sense of abandonment by your mother, not understanding what cancer is, what death is. All you know is she was there, then she was gone. So your logical mind later on in life tells you she had cancer, she passed away, I was adopted, by my dad. And my dad had me adopted out so I can have a family unit to grow up with. So I had a mother and father. So your adult mind tells you that, but your child mind is still saying, I've been abandoned. And that's coming from the storage house of your psyche. And if that's 90 to 95% of the way you see the world and life and the way things play out, you're going to see it from a level of fear, because all of those fears wrapped around abandonment are coming from the lower levels of the mind 90% to 95% of the time that you're living life. So you may act out from that child consciousness in your adult relationships and not realize it. So if you have a fear of abandonment, it could play out in several different ways. You may find yourself having a difficult time getting close and intimate with a romantic partner, or you may find yourself clinging to a romantic partner in a codependent relationship out of fear of being abandoned. So it depends on the way you use it as your survival energy, your survival consciousness. As an adult, what can I do to protect myself from being abandoned? I cannot get into a relationship, so I won't get abandoned. Or I'll get into that relationship and I'll cling so tight that they can never leave me. But what happens is, as an adult and the child part playing out, you could be in a relationship and then your partner doesn't call you, or he doesn't show up on time, or doesn't call you for 3 days. Your first reaction might be from the child part of you, where you start to feel all the same fears that you felt as a child, and you start to go into a survival crisis, which means you start to feel like, I'm being abandoned. Oh my God, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to love me? I'm all alone in this world. Now, as an adult, you know that's not true. You know you can take care of yourself. You know you can survive. But the child part of you goes into fear, and that's the part 90% of the time is going to show up when you get triggered in your adult life. So it's going to play out differently for everybody. But if we don't heal the pain from the past, we're going to stay in that scenario. And we not only create this by ourselves, if it's not happening, we will look for scenarios in our life that will create it for us, because it's called repetition compulsion. We're constantly repeating the past until the mind can take it to what's called completion. Our mind likes everything to be complete in order for us to feel safe. So if you have that 3-year-old child in you that never got to that place of completion where you felt safe, because you're still questioning, where is mom and why is dad giving me to this family? Okay, you still have these emotions and feelings and thoughts rolling around in the subconscious mind, even though you're an adult and you get it logically. So now you're in constant conflict. But you're in conflict, and 90% of the time or more, you're navigating your life based on those memories until you heal them. At least become aware of them so you have more control over it.
Right. This is why it's so important to do this work. And I feel like in my case, I felt like I don't want to pass it to my girls. And I was wondering, how early in life can you start this process? Do you work with teenagers? Like, when do you recommend? So obviously for me was the moment I was holding my first baby in my arms. I suddenly started to cry after my mother. I was like missing her, and I was wondering how could she, die peacefully, and knowing that I'm, left behind. So how early in life do you think it's possible to come to this work?
It really depends on the level of awareness the person has. I have worked with, I would say 9 years, 9 years and up, 9 years old. I have worked with a 9-year-old boy who had, at first he felt abandoned by his dad because in a separation, the dad moved out of state. So he didn't get to see him all the time. And the father couldn't make it to his baseball games or his plays at school. So it felt like abandonment, even though it really wasn't abandonment. But to the child's perception, it was abandonment. And after we did the healing around that, he was doing great. But then 2 years later, his father passed away. So I saw him again at 11, 9, 10, 11 years old. And we had to work on that process of the death. So just like what you went through, we can bury that pain until it's triggered. And you were triggered when you became a mom and you started to realize that I didn't have my mom, and here I'm holding this baby. And you're making that connection of the importance of that mother-child relationship, where before you knew it innately that you needed that connection, but it was so painful that you didn't have it, that you were able to suppress it into your subconscious minds.
Yes.
And I find it interesting how you got triggered not until you became an adult and had your own child, which is very interesting.
Yes, because I did have love from my, uncles, from my aunt and uncle. I did have, but then I started to realize, well, this is what really happened to my mother. So it took 26 years for this to come to that conscious awareness.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
start work. But I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned inner conflicts, and I remember from the classes I had with you, one of the most important on inner conflicts that I find the most helpful is this internal family systems work developed by Dr. Richard Schwartz to explain the state of inner fragmentation of our psyche due to trauma. So I'm wondering if you can really talk a little bit about these inner family systems and how does one make peace? How do you arrive to this inner conflict resolution? Because it's so important to create inner balance and harmony. And maybe
it is very important, very important. And we can go back to that generational trauma, because when we're talking about parts therapy, what's really happening is as children, we start to develop subpersonalities. It's kind of like, for example, if I'm a child and I felt a sense of abandonment because my father left when I was younger, but I felt abandoned, but I don't want to feel that feeling, right? So I bury that inside of myself. But what's wrapped around that sense of abandonment could be a sense of shame. So I may bury the feelings and the emotions of shame into what we call the shadow self. I deeply suppress it and I go on with life and act like it really wasn't important to me that dad wasn't around. But now I have a part of me that feels a sense of shame. Okay. And then what happens is, since I buried it and I don't want to feel that part, the shadow part are the parts of us that we ignore and deny as part of us. So if I'm going to deny a part of me, it means I'm now fragmented from my whole self, because that part of me, that little girl that buried that part of me, is now separate from the rest of me, from the whole self, because I've denied her, which means I'm not accepting all of who I am. And that's kind of what goes back to the self-love. How can you say you have self-love if you don't love all parts of you? So a lot of times I'll say, we only love the parts of us that we believe the world will accept. And we don't love the other parts of us, the parts that we feel were rejected by the world. So I felt that that little girl in me was rejected by dad. So I shamed her for not being enough for Dad's love, and I pushed her away from the rest of me. And I went on with life like she did not exist. So now I'm actually in fragmentation. I'm in conflict with myself because there's a part of me buried down below that says I'm ashamed of who I am. Then I have other parts of me that grew up and said, I'm proud of who I am. Even though my father left when I was a little girl, I'm still proud of who I am, and I know who I am, and I love myself. I do, and I mean that. But I don't realize that I'm not loving all of me. I'm loving this part of me, but not that part of me that I'm ignoring and rejecting. So I'm basically in conflict with myself. I'm fragmented.
So you are also talking in your book about this false self, and you are saying that we must learn to go back to our true selves.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a bit about the true self and the false self. What are they? Because all spiritual systems talk about distinguishing reality from illusion.
Yes.
So how can someone distinguish false self or ego and consciously deconstruct it?
Okay, so we develop a false self for our own protection. So here's another example. If I grew up during, say, I'm 8 or 9 years old, and my brother says to me, you look silly in that yellow dress. You look like a banana. I love yellow, though. I wore this. I pranced around the house with it because I thought I looked gorgeous in it, because yellow was my favorite color, and I got this cute yellow dress, and I was so excited to wear it, and he shot me down and told me I looked silly. I looked like a banana. Now, as a little 8, 9-year-old girl, you're going to take that literally and be very ashamed of that, wearing the yellow now. So now I have to suppress my love for yellow. And I create a false self that hates the color yellow. The true self loves the color yellow, but the false self, right, hates it, but the true self loves it. So I have to put on this persona, this, personality trait that, oh, who are you? What's your favorite color? I said anything but yellow. Just hate the color. But I don't even know why I hate it. But that's really the false self that I developed because I don't want to be shamed. And in my mind, even though I know logically that who cares what color I love, there's still that 8 or 9-year-old little girl that thinks she's going to be shamed for loving the color yellow or ever wearing it again. And I may even judge people as an adult when they wear yellow. I may shame them because what I'm doing is I'm projecting onto them what I don't want to see within me. So that's just a simple example, but if we want to get really deep into it, let's look at a typical way a child perceives life growing up. Suppose the child loves to go around singing. And then she has an older sister, an older brother, even younger, a cousin, whatever, says, shut up, nobody wants to hear you. You sound like a squeaky monkey. Okay? But they love, love, love singing. They have to suppress their love for singing. They have to suppress this spiritual gift they have. When they become an adult, they may have the most amazing voice, but they will not sing in front of other people out of fear that they're going to be criticized. And even though other people may say, you have to sing, your voice is beautiful, it's enlightening, it's beautiful, the tone, it's just amazing, you would never believe it because you have a conflict within. You have a part of you that won't let you be heard singing because it's fearful of the shame. And then we can get really deep into it and look at things like abandonment. Look at all the things we hold on to with abandonment where we say, I'm not worthy of this world because my father abandoned me and he never came back and I never saw him again. So I feel unworthy of a man's love. Okay. Now we become an adult, and the way this gets projected outward is, I don't need a man. And we never really feel that a man is important in our life. Who cares if he wants to date me? Who cares? But deep inside, you want that intimate relationship. You want that closeness with a man, right? You're a girl, you grew up, you wanted a man, but yet you put on this persona now, which is your false self. I really don't care who asks me out. I really don't care if he likes me or not. I really don't care if I meet anybody or not. Because what you're doing is you're protecting yourself from abandonment. So your false self says, and you believe your false self says, I don't need a man. So what you do is you put all your energy into other things besides romantic relationships. You may find yourself CEO of a company really fast because you threw 100% of your energy into your career to avoid relationships. And then you say, I can't, I have no time for a relationship. That's your false self. You're protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself from the feeling of abandonment, but you don't know this is happening. You truly, truly believe in your heart, in your soul, everywhere, every part of you, you believe that you really don't have time for a relationship. But you don't realize what's really feeding your conscious mind is that little girl that says, don't get into a relationship because everybody leaves you. Right? So I had to put on a false self to act like I'm fine by myself. I don't need a man in my life. That's a little girl in me saying, the man I needed in my life left me. I don't trust anybody. But I don't know this is being fed into my consciousness. So I develop a false self to present into the world to protect myself. And sometimes we put out a false self so that people will accept us. So if I was younger and I was told by my mother that I'm overweight, I may grow up eating rabbit food my whole life to make sure I don't get criticized. That's my false self. My true self wants to have a good meal. Maybe I want a big bowl of French fries or potato chips or big spaghetti, and I won't do it because I'm so afraid. But I tell people, no, I eat this way because this is what I enjoy. And that's my false self because I'm trying to protect myself from getting overweight and people rejecting me. So we put on these false personalities. So when we think about other people, before we criticize them, try to understand that the way they respond to life is based on what's going on deep within them. It's not really coming 100% from that logical mind. It's only coming 10%. About 90% of the time, it's coming from memories they have that dictate to them how the world sees them. So if you get somebody who's very shy, instead of criticizing them and saying, oh, I can't stand being around them, they don't even talk, maybe they were told to shut up most of their life as a child. So they're afraid to talk. So you think that that's their personality, you think that's their true self, but their true self talked a lot as a child, but they were told to shut up so many times that their false self became shy. It's not their true self, it's their false self. It's a persona that they put on to make sure they don't get rejected by the world.
So
and that's the difference.
I can see how truth is so deeply interconnected with self-love.
Yes.
So we can't have one without the other.
Exactly. We can't have our full self playing out, ignore our true self, and say we're in self-love. And you know what? There's probably the largest 80 to 85%, I'd say, or more of this world is not really in self-love. And that's okay, because it is a journey. And we have to start peeling away the layers that are blocking who we really are in our authenticity. To take that shy person and let them speak up unapologetically, to let them use their voice and feel good about doing it and not be fearful that people will reject them, right? To let that little girl that shoved that, love for yellow down, to be able to wear that yellow and love it, love her body in that yellow clothing instead of fearing that she's going to get rejected. That's showing up in our true self. That's showing up in our authenticity. So when I called the book, breaking those barriers to self-love and live a life of authenticity, it means just getting back to who we really are before our mental mind, right, was overloaded with everybody else's judgments and criticisms.
So what I really like about your book is how you offer these practical tools of self-love. So can you go over some of them now and maybe just sample like a quick self-hypnosis induction or something for self-love?
Absolutely. So first, let me talk about why it's important for you to go into that altered state of consciousness, which we can call self-hypnosis. We can call it, like right now, we're in what's called the beta state. We're fully aware of our environment. So all we really need to do is get down to the next level of consciousness where our brain waves slow down a little bit. And that's called the alpha state. That's like when you're watching a movie and you become fully engrossed in the movie and you kind of block out your environment because you're so engrossed in the movie. That's an altered state of consciousness. You went from fully alert to kind of relaxing a little bit. It's the same way when you first wake up and you're first falling asleep, you go into that alpha state of consciousness, your brainwaves are slowing down. And the reason you need to do that is because what you want to do is get out of the mental mind, get out of the conscious thinking mind and relax. And when you relax, you're basically opening up the subconscious mind. And you want to open up the subconscious mind to feed the subconscious mind more positive information to help you basically, overcome those old belief systems that really don't apply to you as an adult. Now, as a child, keep in mind that when we went into that survival mode, that is a natural part of, it's an instinct. We go into survival. We have to do our people pleasing. We have to try to get mom and dad's love. It's part of our survival instinct. But the problem is it stays with us as an adult because the child's still feeding that to our consciousness. But as an adult, we don't need that survival instinct anymore. We can take care of ourselves, but we still look outside of ourselves for that acceptance and love. So the idea is to feed our subconscious mind with self-love affirmations. But we got to do it when we're in that altered state. We're in the alpha, or what's even slower than that would be the theta state of consciousness, so that it can go right into the subconscious mind and override those old beliefs that were not worthy of it. Okay? So what I would like to explain to your audience in order to get there, first of all, if they're listening in a place they cannot close their eyes, they can pause this and do this exercise later. But if they are in a place where they can close their eyes, I suggest that they close their eyes and they count backwards from 10 to 1, and I'll take you through it. And as I'm going to say the words deeper relaxed, I would like your audience and you, Adina, join in. Breathe into your heart and just imagine the breath flowing in and out of your heart as you're saying the words deeper relaxed as you count down. So it would be like this: 10, deeper relaxed as you're breathing through the heart. 9, deeper relaxed. 8, deeper relaxed. 7, deeper relaxed. 6, deeper relaxed. 5, relaxing deeper now. 4, relaxing completely. 3, feeling so peaceful. 2, so relaxed. And 1. And now that my mind and body are relaxed, I can now say these positive affirmations to be absorbed into my subconscious and flood my body with so much self-love. I am lovable. I am divine consciousness. I belong here. I am perfect the way I am. I am truly significant and valuable to this world. I have spiritual gifts that I bring to the world. No matter what's going on around me, I am always in a state of peace. I love me. I love me. And just feel that in your body now, because now what you're doing, your body is now resonating with your true self. That's you in your truth. Your nervous system automatically begins to relax. Your muscles will relax. Any part of you that was contracted is now relaxed. You could just feel a sense of deep peace because you're talking truth. You're talking from your higher self. You're talking from your own divine nature. You are not in conflict when you say these beautiful affirmations. And now take a deep breath in and just come back to the present moment and just feel how good that feels. The reason I want you to breathe into your heart is to connect with feeling, to get out of the thinking mind, connect with the feeling, and bring those feelings into your body because our emotions are in our body. And if we have negative emotions, they will flood the body, and that can lead to dis-ease, right, in the body. So if you close your eyes and you started saying things like, I'm unworthy, maybe you're resonating with what's in your subconscious mind, but you're not resonating with your divine self, which means your body is going to feel a sense of anxiety. It's going to feel uneasy because your body is embodying the true self. The true self actually is around the body, and the body sits within the divine consciousness, and we are this beautiful spirit. But when we're telling this consciousness something that's actually a lie, like we're unworthy, our body's going to respond to that with a feeling of anxiety. And that feeling of anxiety is basically a conflict between our true self and the lie we just told it. That's why people have a lot of issues around anxiety. They're not living from their truth. They're living from these memories that tell them they're not worthy, and it's conflicting with their true self, and it's causing anxiety.
Wow, Kelly, thank you so much. This was so relaxing and enlightening. I must say, I love your new book. I'm going to be there for your book launch on Wednesday. So tell
Thank
us where is it and how can we find your book, please?
It's on Amazon. It's Barnes and Noble. It comes in Kindle format. It comes in soft and hardcover, but it's also going to be in audio very soon on my website. And you can also order in an ebook on my website, which is www.heartsinharmonyhypnosis.com. So it's in the store area in ebook, but pretty soon I'll have the audiobook because some people like the audiobook because they're traveling, driving, whatever, and they'd rather, listen to audio. So, and that's it. But I want everybody to remember that you all beautiful divine beings, you do love yourself. And the reason I know you love yourself is because you're always protecting yourself. The problem is you, as a child, you pushed off parts of yourself for acceptance by the world, but you are truly in your divine self. Believe me, accepted by the world. If they don't, anybody does not accept you, it's because they're not in acceptance of who they are. And that's just a projection of how they feel inside. But when you project out self-love, I guarantee you, you add so much love to the world in such high vibration, you become a change maker for a more peaceful world.
This is such an important work, and I can testify this is so healing to me. This was such an important piece of my own journey. And I'm very grateful for you for not only doing it for me, but teaching me how to do it for others. And I had incredible cases, and I'm just thrilled to do this work. I'm very humbled and honored to do this.
Adina, I'm grateful you're doing the work because there's not enough of us that are out there doing the deep work to help people see their truth, to see how amazing they are in their human and divine consciousness. So I'm grateful for you and anybody else that's doing this deep spiritual, I would have to say psycho-spiritual work, because we're working with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And it really is powerful work. It's what we need. It's what we always needed. And I think now people are starting to realize they have to do more than just talk therapy. They got to go deep into the soul and really find those places of deep love inside of them and bring it up and help that deep love remind them that they're here on a journey to bring more love and peace to the world. And the only way to do that is to remember who we are, that we are a consciousness and embodiment of love.
Thank you so much for making time to be here today. And I will look forward to see you on Wednesday.
I look forward to it. Thank you again.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.